Well, hello. I am Dr. Anthony Edwards. I'm Assistant Professor of Educational Leadership and Technology at Tarleton State University, and I'm the instructor for ELHE 5304, Higher Education Leadership. We're going to go over Chapter 13, the Excellence in Higher Education Model, an integrating framework for envisioning, pursuing, and sustaining organizational excellence. So, in this chapter, things we're going to cover include the Baldrige framework categories, Baldrige in higher education, the excellence in higher education model, the similarities between the Baldrige model, the excellence in higher education model, and accreditation priorities, the EHE or education or excellence in higher education process for each category that we'll go over, the considerations when it comes to the excellence in higher education model, and assessment, prioritization, planning, and improvement cycle with respect to the excellence in higher education model. So the Baldrige framework is a quality management framework, and it's used in a variety of industries. They have national quality program, and it's through the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and it has 7 categories. They are leadership, strategy, customers, workforce, operations, results, and measurement, analysis, and knowledge management. And you can see how that would apply to a lot of different industries. But there are basically questions that are asked to deal with is there quality at each of these different categories. So in higher education, there's a model that's been developed called the Excellence in Higher Education Model, or EHE for short, and it's very similar. It's built on the Baldrige model, but it has a little bit different language. So leadership is the same. So the strategy is now purposes and plans. So customers is beneficiary and constituency relationships. Workplace is faculty/staff in the workplace. Operations is programs and services. I think assessment and analysis is pretty much the same. And then the results, measurement, analysis is outcomes and achievements. So language is a little bit different. And when we talk about beneficiaries, we're talking about those who benefit from higher education, so typically students. Constituencies are different groups that are related to the decision, whether they're internal or external stakeholders. So in a higher ed context, that could be anywhere from faculty, staff, board of regents, donors, alumni, so a lot of different constituencies that you would have to consider. So since it's focused on quality, you'll notice there are very similar priorities between the Baldrige model. Obviously the EHE model are similar, but also with accreditation. A lot of the accreditation agencies or boards are focused on quality improvement and making sure that institutions maintain quality standards. And some of the different similarities include things like the department review of institution, as well as the mission and vision of different departments. So that's something you'll see in all of those areas. The establishment of different goals, so you need that for accreditation as well as for EHE model. How the programs and services are designed, how the programs and services are delivered, how outcomes are assessed, and then how do you improve upon various parts of the institution. So all of these are common, and so there's the authors of the textbook argue for finding a connection or integration of the EHE model within different accrediting boards. So for each category, there's a process that you would go through kind of to assess each category and assess quality in each category. So first you'd be identifying themes and standards, figuring out what the various for a different department, what themes emerge that are related to quality and what the various standards are and how do they compare. Next, you're going to be identifying the strengths of each individual department at the institution and what are the growth opportunities in each area. And finally, you would review the different best practices in each category and then identify other higher education institutions. So if there are others that are succeeding in that area, you want to identify who they are and figure out what they're doing and see if there are lessons that you can implement. So considerations when you're, as an institution, if you're trying to implement the model, think about how well developed are the plans and processes. So, are they very well developed, or are they abstract, not very well? Are they in the beginning stages, or are they later stages? And then how widespread is that focus on quality improvement? You see it in maybe one division or one department here and there, but it really isn't being spread throughout the entire institution, or is that movement really happening everywhere in the institution? So in terms of the scoring, these are things that will impact where someone scores. There's a rubric for the model. So since this is about quality improvement, quality improvement has to be continuous. And so there's a cycle to figure out kind of what you need to do in order to improve quality at your institution, at your college or university. So the first step is assessing, figuring out what's going on, what's the current state of affairs, and then you got to prioritize for what things are the most important, what areas are the ones that you need to tackle first. Then you need to develop a plan to do so. Figure out how you're going to handle those areas to improve them. Then you have to implement the plan, right? You got to start actually taking some action. And at that point, then you're going to complete the plan. And once you're you're going to finish it out, and you're going to measure your progress. Figure out, did you make the changes that you said you wanted to make? And then you repeat the process, because you're never done. So you're going to assess where you are and figure out what things you need to do at that point. All right, so in conclusion, what we covered in this lesson, we covered the Baldrige framework categories, the Baldrige in higher education, excellence in education, in higher education model. We covered similarities between the Baldrige model, the EHE model, and the accreditation priorities. We covered how to assess the process for assessing progress in each area or each category of EHE. Considerations when you are looking at how well you're doing at implementing EHE and what the scoring and what might impact the scoring, and then the assessment prioritization, planning, and improvement cycle. So again, I'm Dr. Anthony Edwards with ELHE 5304 Higher Education Leadership, and this has been Chapter 13 on the Excellence in Higher Education Model. We'll see you in the next video.